We need to have a kid, name them Bam, so they can have a Bam fam on YouTube. What's up, Bam fam? Hey beautiful, welcome, welcome. It's Chandi from Expression Fiber Arts, and I am so glad you're here today. I have a really fun tutorial I'm going to be demonstrating. I think you're going to love it. It is how to knit 2 sleeves at once on 1 circular needle. What? It's pretty incredible. I'm excited. When you're knitting sleeves, or you can also use it for socks or wrist warmers or leg warmers or anything where you're making 2 identical tubes. Now, the reason I would encourage you to try this technique is it's going to give you several really awesome benefits while you're knitting your sleeve. One, it is going to help you maintain gauge. So if you've ever found that you were knitting one sleeve and then you went and knitted the other, and maybe you were just having a different kind of day and one sleeve is slightly bigger than the other, this is going to help prevent that. Thing number 2 is, and in my opinion, this is probably the best benefit, it's going to ensure that you have the same number of rows on your sleeve. Sometimes I have made sleeves in the past and one was a row or 2 longer. Oops, because sometimes it can be hard to count your rows in knitting. But just due to the way this technique works, literally it forces you to work the same number of rows or rounds per sleeve, so you are guaranteed they're going to be the same length. Yay! Thing number 3 is you are not going to end up with second sleeve syndrome.
What in God's name is that?
If you've never knitted the first sleeve, they can take a little bit longer than you might think, and so you get one done, yay, but then you move on to the next one and it languishes away in your project bag and you don't finish. You don't want that to happen. You want to actually finish your sleeves, finish your sweater, or whatever project it is you're working on, but this helps to prevent that.
Because you're doing them at the same time?
Because you're doing them at the same time, so when you're done, son. When might you use this technique, you ask? When you're picking up your sleeves, instead of just picking up one, you're going to pick up your stitches for both your sleeves with 1 long circular needle, and you're going to knit them together at the same time. For example, this is our Storyteller Cardigan. It was designed for you by Christina Smiley. This Storyteller Cardigan is absolutely fabulous, and I think you're going to love this one so much because it has a really gorgeous yet simple to work texture called the Huckleberry Stitch, and probably my favorite feature, it has pockets. Look at these cute little pockets. I love pockets. Cardigans are one of my absolute all-time favorite things to make because you can wear them every day. They're like a little jacket that you put on, a little hug. So you can make this long like we did. This is a great almost knee length on me, or if you want to, you can make the same pattern but make it shorter. You can do it cropped, you can make it whatever length you prefer, but I really think it's going to be a wearable piece that you can toss on throughout the year, and it's just going to be a staple in your wardrobe. We used our resilient sock yarn for this pattern because it is super bouncy. It's one of our bounciest, boingiest yarns, which I love in a cardigan because it's just going to retain its shape really well. It's very, very soft, so it's going to feel amazing on your skin, and it's machine washable. So for something like a cardigan that you're going to be using a lot and need to wash frequently, you want something that is going to hold up well to lots of love and use. Make sure to go to expressionfiberarts.com and download the pattern PDF if you would love it, and we're also going to put the direct link to this pattern in the description for you. To get started, you're going to need 1 long circular needle. Really, the longer, the easier it's going to be for you. I would recommend probably at least somewhere in the 30, 32, 36 range, or even longer. You're also going to need some yarn, obviously. Now, you can pull 1 strand from the outside of your ball and 1 from the inside if you like, and knit your separate sleeves from that. If it's less confusing, you can just create 2 separate balls or cakes of yarn. I'm going to actually use 2 different colors today, just so you can distinguish sleeve 1 from sleeve 2, but yours will be the same most likely if you're knitting 2 identical sleeves. Quick side note, before we jump in, we are essentially working magic loop here, but doing it double since we're working 2 sleeves at once. If you are brand new to magic loop and you have no idea how that works, I have another video for you. You can hop over and watch that video first, get really clear on magic loop, and then hop back here and follow along with me. To begin, you're going to start by casting on half of the stitches that you need for your first sleeve. Now, if you are picking up stitches from the body of your sweater you've been working on, instead of casting them on, you're just going to pick up half of the stitches for sleeve 1. Next up, you're going to cast on or pick up, if you're working off of a sweater, all of the stitches for sleeve number 2. And then finally, you're going to pick up the second half, or cast on the second half of stitches for sleeve number 1. To keep things simple today, I'm just going to be working stockinette stitch, which is just knitting every stitch every round, but you'll want to follow the stitch sequence that your pattern calls for. So let's go ahead and do that. Once you've cast on half the stitches for your first sleeve, you're going to just slide those out of the way and cast on all of the stitches for your second sleeve. Now we have half of the stitches of sleeve 1, all of the stitches of sleeve 2. What you're going to do next is slide all of these stitches for sleeve 2 onto your cable and then count halfway. I cast on 20 stitches, so I will count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then grab your cable between those stitches right at the halfway mark, and you're going to pull that up. Continue pulling your cable all the way up until your needles line up. All right, when you're looking at this, what you're going to do next is cast on the second half of your stitches for sleeve 1 onto the opposite needle. Hold your needles parallel like this. Grab the working yarn and the tail of sleeve 1 and cast on the second half of the stitches onto the other needle, or pick up the stitches if you're picking them up from your sweater. Here is your setup. You've got sleeve 1 here and sleeve 2 here, so let's go ahead and get started knitting. At this point, your needles are going to look like this. Go ahead and turn your needles so we can get started knitting, and make sure that your stitches are not twisted. You don't want them all twisted around. That's not going to work. Now, the needle that has the working yarn attached to it, grab that and pull it up. You're going to have a loop on both sides, sticking out the right and a loop sticking out the left. Now grab your working yarn, and we're going to pull it under this other needle here, and we're going to work across these first few stitches. This is going to be round 1, and it's going to close up our little tubes. 1, 2, and I'm just doing stockinette today to keep it simple. I just really wanted to show you the technique. You can do this right-handed or left-handed, however you prefer to knit. And then just finish knitting across the first half of your stitches for sleeve 1, and you're done with that part. Now you can slide sleeve 1 off onto the cables. We're done with it for right now. Grab your needles again, and we're going to slide sleeve 2. You should have the part that does not have yarn attached on your needle. The part with the yarn attached should be on your cable. And again, make sure that your stitches are not twisted or doing anything crazy, or you will not end up with a tube. You'll have some kind of funky Mobius thing. Now, also make sure your yarn is coming up and under when you're knitting. You don't want to wrap it around. You don't want to be creating an extra stitch. So just keep a watch and make sure you're not creating an extra stitch. Now we're going to work the first half of the stitches of sleeve number 2. And for me, that's just 10 stitches, just to keep it short and sweet today. These would be some teeny tiny little sleeves, maybe for a little doll or something. 9 and 10. And there's the first half of the stitches for sleeve number 2. Next up, I like to pull my yarn up and over the top just to make sure I'm not going to be creating an extra stitch. Turn, then slide your cable into the other stitches. Pull this cable up. Make sure sleeve number 1 is staying out of the way there. And we're going to work the second half of our stitches. Get those all on the needle. Make sure nothing's twisted and funky. And then go ahead and work the stitches for the second half of sleeve number 2. Just like you did before, just following your pattern, whatever that may be, whatever stitches it calls for. All right, I'll go ahead and finish that up. And then you will, at this point, have finished round 1 for your second sleeve. And it should look something like this. Sleeve 2 is done, or at least that round. Give yourself a little bit of cable on that side and shove that off onto the cable. Go ahead and grab your needles, and you're going to slide the second half of the stitches for sleeve 1 onto your needle. Pick up your yarn. Make sure that you're not creating an extra stitch. And then you're going to go ahead and work your stitches for that sleeve as well. And we're going to continue this along round after round, working half the stitches for sleeve 1, all of the stitches for sleeve 2, and then the second half of the stitches for sleeve 1. So I hope that helps to clarify what we're doing here. And that's what you should be looking at. Here is what you should have at this point. We've got all the stitches for round 1 on sleeve 1, and we did all the stitches for round 1 on sleeve 2. You want to make sure that your yarns are always staying separate and not tangled and not accidentally crossing over to the other sleeve, or your sleeves are going to be joined, which you do not want. Now, what you're going to do from this point on is the exact same thing. You're going to work the first half of the stitches for sleeve 1, the first half of the stitches for sleeve 2, the second half of stitches for sleeve 2, and then the second half of the stitches for sleeve 1, and continue on and on around, working your sleeve pattern as the pattern calls for. Every round is going to be the same now. And I just wanted to show you, as we start our second round on sleeve 1, it's just like when we started the first few stitches of sleeve 2. You pull your cable up, you slide those stitches onto your needle, and then proceed to knit those stitches. And you're going to repeat this round after round, continuing along in your pattern. So I'm going to do a few more rounds, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. So my two cute little sleeves are starting to take shape. Something I did want to mention is that this technique definitely gets easier as you go along and you get into the rhythm and the groove of it. And a little quick tip for you: if your working yarn and your tail are on the same side of your sleeve, that means you have worked a full round. If your working yarn is over here and your tail is over here, that means you've only worked half the stitches for that sleeve. Thank you for watching. I hope that you had a blast learning a new technique today. I hope that you loved this tutorial. Definitely give it a try. You might find that you love it and you want to do this for all your sleeves, all your socks, all your wrist warmers, or you might find it's not for you and you just want to work one at a time, and that is okay too. It is whatever you prefer. I just thought it would be really fun to show you that this is an option if you would like to try it. You go out and have a most marvelous day. Find some time to craft today and do something you love, because you deserve it. And I'm going to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Gross.
Got it. Okay. Sock one, or sleeve one from sleeve two, but obviously you're going to be the same color.
Let's do it again.
What? Was that funny?
Two balls.
I have 2 balls.
Yeah.
I've got 2 balls. Cakes of yarn. You can, where was I? Okay. I'm doing my best. Okay, loosen up. Bye-bye. Elaine.